Well, hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on episode 3 of Revolutionary Girl Utena. I'm really enjoying the series so far. The last 2 episodes have been very eye-opening. There is this organization, could be a guy, could be an organization called End of the World, that has charged these student council members to be constantly dueling each other to win the Rose Bride's hand, and whoever gets her hand, I guess, at the end of a certain amount of allotted time, who knows, we haven't really gotten that far, is going to get a hold of the power to revolutionize the world. Like you do. and so Utena, who I think she's kind of like, have I seen Anthe before? Have I not? But him and Mia could possibly be the reincarnation of a prince that gave Utena a ring before. She could be related to a prince. This prince's spirit seemed to inhabit Utena in the last episode while she was battling Saionji. So there's a lot of things at work. And I'm fine with it. I honestly, I wanted to watch ahead with this series because I'm afraid that what's going to happen is people in the comments are going to try, and you all do it being nice. The people that do this, they're trying to be nice and trying to be helpful, and they'll try to explain what the world building is. And I'm like, I appreciate it, but I want to watch the show and see if I can figure it out through the show. And then, if we get towards the end and you're like, you still haven't figured it out, then I'll be like, yes, I need to know these things. But I feel like it's just this random world building, and not random, but it's just, they're giving you random bits of information about the world building, and then we're supposed to kind of piece it together as we go. Which is fine by me. I love a good mystery. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. But Saionji tried to duel Utena last time, tried to do a rematch to get his filthy little grubs back on Anthe, and it didn't work out because Utena tapped into the power of Dios to access the prince, or however that works. So I have a feeling there's going to be a lot with reincarnation, a lot with fate, a lot with... I'm so curious to see what we get, and there's still characters we don't know their names. Saionji and Kiryu are the only ones we know their names of. The others, we haven't even seen the blonde-haired girl yet, except in the OP, so I'm very excited to see what's going to happen, and so I had to record ahead. Because I want to try to see what they give us. But yes, Utena now lives in a dorm that is completely hers and Anthe's alone. I'm curious to see if the other Sailor Scouts, the other student council members will slowly filter in and start to stay there as well. It would be hilarious if they all became housemates, but we'll just see where we go from there. So a special shout out to Anthony for getting the files for this series, because again, why Crunchyroll decided to drop it, who knows? But so far it's been a blast. So thank you, Anthony, so much. All of my love for getting me these files so I can watch this series and it not be in 480p quality, which wouldn't be fine. I'm doing Natsume's Book of Friends that way, so wouldn't be unheard of. But thank you so much. So let's dive in, shall we? I didn't want to wait. It's late tonight, but I was like, before I go to bed, I really want to watch an episode of Utena. So here we are. But we're going to start episode 3 of Revolutionary Girl Utena. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's begin. Well... This is not the Nanami that I'm thinking of. Not at all. No. Wow. So I really liked this episode. I liked how self-contained this episode was. It felt like a nice, like the last 2 episodes were all just like, there are duels, there are things. What's interesting to note is right off the bat, I like the idea, especially based on the preview that we get of Mickey. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Like, I'm just gonna have that song stuck in my head now for the rest of the day, and now you can too. But I think what's interesting to note is that as far as the duels go, not every member of the council is approaching the idea of the duels in the same way. And I think this episode very distinctly shows how Kiryu is different than Saionji. And I didn't bring Whiteboard Kun out because I was like, well, not today. Maybe next week we'll bring him back out once we get to know more about the student council. But like Saionji was just like, I'm gonna fight you. And he's aggressive, he's in your face, he's up front. The thing about Saionji that's really interesting, especially after and Kiryu notes that he's been crying in his dojo for the last week, is he seems really sensitive and very emotional and wears his emotions on his sleeve. He's very upfront. And that's kind of, I know I was really harsh to him the last 2 episodes. And I was like, man, what an asshole. But now in comparison to Nanami, I think that honestly in comparison, while I do not approve of Saionji's asshole behavior in terms of physically abusing Anthe, I don't like that at all. I do think that it is worth noting. And I would prefer someone like Saionji who wears his heart on his sleeve and is very upfront. You kind of know what you're getting, rather than someone like Kiryu or Nanami who are very sly and manipulative. Especially Nanami. She's just like straight up mean girl. Like, what a wench. And she's very manipulative and plays a dirty game, right? Saionji, he doesn't necessarily play a dirty game. He's just a brute. Right? And then you have Kiryu, who, I'm sorry, but the fact that Dio/Toji/Adam's voice actor is playing him is so perfect. It makes so much sense. I'm like, oh my God, playing Kiryu. Toga Kiryu. Interesting. And then Nanami. When I think of Nanami, I think of Nanami Kento, who is from Jujutsu Kaisen, back on my bookshelf back there, who is the adult of all adults and who is the most mature male character in any modern shonen anime. She is not that. Not at all. But so interesting. So there's some other things that come into play in this, but I like the idea that each student council member is playing a different game and they're playing it a different way. And it seems like Kiryu is playing Saionji, again, straightforward, to the point. There's a reason he was our first student council member we encountered. He's the most easy to understand. He wants the bride. He wants Anthe as his bride because he believes she's going to give him the power to revolutionize the world. Boom, done. That's all there is to it. Kiryu is a little bit more complicated. And Nanami seems like she's just in it for her brother, which I've read Game of Thrones, so I know what I'm getting into. I was like, oh girl, are we going to go that route? Cersei, come on now. Kiryu does have kind of a Jaime Lannister vibe to it, if I'm being honest. Oh my God. So we go back to this dream about the prince, the handsome prince who kissed her tears away. It says wiped in the subtitles, straight up sucked them tears out of her eye sockets. And then she wakes up being the prince. And the episode's called Duel 3 Night of the Ball. What's interesting to note in all of this is that it appears that us, the audience, are the only ones that see the content of her dreams. Or maybe it's just vague to her. Because for a second it seemed like she was trying to see if Kiryu was the prince that gave her the ring. I'm like, first of all, why do you think it's him when Saionji also had a ring? You didn't think Saionji was the prince, but you wondered if Kiryu was? And second, I mean, not to profile, but the prince in your dream looks like his skin tone is a little bit more darker than Kiryu's. So I don't know. Maybe you're dreaming in black and white. I would just think that there's no way they could be the same person, but what do I know? So I love the idea of Choo Choo just like sleeping like a dang vampire bat there. It's funny. She's like, could this ring have guided me to all this? Yeah, I think so. I think the ring is meant for you to find the castle, but I think that Anthe is somehow either related to the prince, a reincarnation of the prince, or is the prince in disguise and doesn't realize it. It's one of the two. I don't think Anthe is the prince because the spirit of the prince came into Utena during the battle last episode, but I wonder if she's like a sister or if she's just like the vessel for the prince and the prince is like a soul. This series does not want to reveal its cards too quickly, so we'll just have to see as we go what we end up getting. But I like that we're getting close. Again, when I saw the basket, the vase of all the roses, it made me think, because there's like a red rose, there's a pink rose, there's a yellow rose, there's an orange rose, and there's a white rose, and then there's all the green, right? And we've seen Anthe kind of show the white rose as kind of like part of her symbolism. I wondered if this vase of like, they're like peace roses, if they're supposed to represent the council members, like you have Kiryu with the red hair, Utena has the pink, Nanami has the blonde, we don't know the orange dreamsicle one yet, and then you have the green, which is Saionji, and then the blue-haired one is just kind of like there, but it also said in the preview they weren't into the duels, so Are they there by default? What's the deal? Did they get there on accident? I want to know more about Mickey next episode. So I think I will keep watching the previews because they aren't overly revealing and they kind of get me hyped up for the next episode. So yeah, I love the idea at first. I kind of like the transition from this episode from beginning to end, where at first Utena, she's like looking around this place, like, this place is huge. Are we just supposed to like hang out just you and I? I mean, the irony is that at the start of this episode and throughout it, Utena's like, let's go make friends. Let's go hang out with other people. Why do you want to be here by yourself? I have a feeling as the series goes on, this dorm is like going to become a sanctuary for them and they're going to want to come back here and be alone. But by that point, they won't be able to. And that'll be like the irony. Like you didn't want to be alone, but now you do. And it's too late. I don't know. I just foresee that possibly happening. But I like that we see like the window pane dividing the two characters. Like Utena is very extroverted. She's very open-minded. She's very outgoing. She's very outspoken. She's just like, take charge. She's like, let's do this. And she's always around people and seems to kind of flourish in that environment. Whereas Anthe is like, I don't like being around lots of people. I start to like, she's like, they all start to look the same and I get freaked out. And I like that this show kind of tackles what that social anxiety can kind of feel like. Because I'll be honest, I like talking to people and I like being in small groups and talking to people. Like, I feel like when you're with like one or two people, you can like get a big conversation going. But whenever there's like 7 or 8 people, suddenly I find myself like stopping and trying to keep track of all the conversations. And I lose myself I start to like disassociate in that moment when I'm in a big crowd. And if I'm in a huge crowd, well, then I just kind of like totally disassociate. And I just want to like find my seat and look around and people watch. So I totally get where Anthe is coming from and how she enjoys the silence. Plus, compared to like all of the like organ music that's been crushing her eardrums the last several days where she's been with the other council members, I would understand why she'd want the silence, right? I guess with the duel, it's going to be explained to us at some point. I'm curious to know, like, is this like a game of duck, duck, goose? Is this like a game of hot potato where we just keep dueling to get the bride and then at the end of a certain length of time, suddenly she's yours and you win the game? How do they determine, like, there's not a tournament set up in this. So how do they determine who gets to duel for the Rose Bride's hand? And interestingly, Kiryu doesn't come outright and challenge Utena to a duel. He doesn't seem as concerned about getting the Rose Bride, whereas Saionji was all about it. So what's the deal with that? And even Nanami, she doesn't care about the Rose Bride. She was trying to hurt her. She just wanted to like get with her brother. And I'm like, girl, what? The Nanami, I just want to imagine her with the voice of the English dub of Jezebel from Pokemon, which was like this southern version of Jessie called Jezebel. I just want to imagine her being like, you're not running properly. I just want to imagine that with Nanami. So yeah, Nanami's like, I've already got lots of friends. It's just me and Chu and you. And Utena's like, well, that's really cute. But I also like how she tells her to drop the Utena-sama. And we see all the girls at school calling her that. Again, we talked about Nozaki-kun last episode. And she's like, I know that they call me Utena-sama and they like think of me as like a boyish girl, but she's like, they're kind of saying it as a joke. When you say it, you're being serious. And Anthe says, well, yeah, that's because we're engaged. And she's like, no, I like that Utena's probably the only person that Anthe has met that is not like trying to like go along with the engagement or the Rose Bride. She's like, I'm not your bride. You're not my bride. We're not engaged. Like, stop. We barely know each other. We just got assigned to the same house. And so then we start this line of dialogue. And I came into this series believing this is a Yuri, which is two girls liking each other. And it very much seems to be the case. But Utena, I'm very curious to see how Utena's sexuality is going to get explored in this series, because she's like, I'm just a regular girl. And she's like, I'm not into girls. She's like, I don't want a bride or anything. All I'm interested in are regular boys. And that's when Kiryu's like, well, that's good. And I'm like, not you though. You're not a regular boy. So I'm going to be very curious to see how Utena's sexuality develops in this series. She reminds me at this point of, there's a character in another series I'm reading called Scum Villain's Self-Saving System. It's a Chinese Danmai, which is a boys' love And so in that series, the main character, Shin Ching-cho, he is oblivious to the fact that someone's flirting with him. Completely oblivious. Completely oblivious that he's flirting back. Just over the head. Does not realize he's in love with this person. And Utena kind of strikes me the same way, where I don't think she realizes who she likes and what she likes. She's just like, I'm absolutely normal. And it's like, are you though? And that's when Kiryu shows up. I just love him coming out of the shadows. Kiryu Toga, the student council president. I love this man with fire red waist length hair, perfectly coiffed, comes out here in a knight's outfit and has the gall to say, I'm Kiryu Toga, student council president, and completely regular boy. If he wasn't so smarmy, I would really like Kiryu. If he wasn't, I have a bit of an attraction to divas in fiction, like, and diva men especially. And so I love Utena's, like, there were some facial expressions in this episode that were hilarious. Utena giving the brow raise to him. And then Wakaba, whenever she says that Anthe is her roommate, Wakaba's like, what? Like, her expression was hilarious. But yeah, she's like, well, of course we're close. She's the student council. And she's like, oh, I see. You're playing these games too. And so I like that the first thing Kiryu does is ask if she's told anybody about the duels. And she's like, no, why would I say something so stupid? And he's like, oh, good. You're not an idiot. You're keeping this close to the vest. Perfect. And he's like, well, you just look gallant and beautiful even when you're angry, Tenjo Utena-kun. And here's the thing. Even if you were a nice person, even if you hadn't done anything wrong, you have known this girl all of 10 seconds. The fact that you instantly run your hand through her hair, I'd be like, no. Like, that's something you don't do till you're like on third date status. Like, that's not something you do after just meeting someone. I'm glad she smacked his hand away, like, stop it. Like, quit it. Leave me alone. And he's like, oh, the gall. How dare she? He looks so put off. And that's when he knows the ring, and Anthe's like, what is this? Like, she defended herself? What? I feel like Anthe's never seen another woman defend herself, which is interesting. And she's like, we're not that close, Mr. President. Don't be so touchy. He's like, let's be friends. It's not like we're entirely unconnected. And that's when he shows off the ring. And she's like, oh, could he be the prince? And I'm like, girl, why do you think that? Like, no. And she's like, well, why do you have that? And he's like, so I could meet you, of course. So maybe she didn't realize that all of them have the rings, but I'm pretty sure Saionji showed her his. I'm also like, girl, he looks nothing like the prince in your dreams, so... And he's like, I'd like to get to know you. Now, my question is, the question is, how did they get the rings? How did all of them get the rings? Utena's was given to her by this prince. Did a princess show up in Kiryu's dream and give him the ring? I'm wondering if all of these members have seen iterations of the prince that gave them the ring and led them here to find the prince or to get engaged to the Rose Bride. Like, I'm so curious. I wonder if the prince and the Rose Bride are like one and the same being. They're separated. And because they're separated into two different genders, then the soul reaches out to people of different genders too. And maybe Kiryu saw, like, because in the ED, there's the prince alongside Utena as well as Anthe. So could it be that, like, an entity that looked like Utena came to Kiryu and gave him the ring? Is that what? It seems like he's trying to get to know her to figure out if she's the princess or is she the prince? This show is building up mystery about it, but there's clearly a reason he wants to get to know her. Then we get that damn organ music. Every time that organ music kicks in and they start their monologue about being the chicken and the egg is our world and we have to break the world's shell, it's like prepare for trouble and make it double. It's like a Team Rocket like intro. And so they're like, well, Saionji fought Utena and lost a second time. And I wonder what Mickey is timing. It was only 5 seconds this time. I'm curious. Says he's locked himself in his room since yesterday and missed school today. Interesting. Like, was he timing himself? And I like that the one girl says, who cares about him? Like, that nobody cares about poor Saionji. Is she trying to revolutionize the world? And Kiryu's like, well, it doesn't appear like she's getting letters. So why does she have the rose seal? And Kiryu's like, indeed, why? Why does she have it? So yeah, Kiryu's a playboy, surprising no one. His sister is a playgirl, apparently, who's extremely jealous of anybody that gets near her brother. So that's fun. I just love that Wakaba nearly knocks Utena out of window, and the story would have been over. It's like the meme of the story if Wakaba had knocked Utena out a window to her death. Like, that would have been it. Would have been the end of the story, and Wakaba would have been at fault. So anyway, I like that Wakaba does try to steer her away from Kiryu, being like, he's a playboy, you don't want to be around him. And she's like, well, a playboy couldn't possibly be my prince on a white horse. And then she's like, who'd you get room with? And she says, Anthe. And her face when she says Anthe is so funny. And then she explains that Anthe is liked by a bunch of boys. Go figure. I'm like, poor Anthe. I feel sorry for her. I find it interesting that Anthe is liked by a bunch of boys and Utena is liked by all the girls. You know, what can we do? But, I feel bad. These mean girls that, like, are Nanami's henchwomen, like, ganging up on her for no reason. It's not her fault, Saionji. I'm surprised they didn't smack her because Saionji was hitting on her before. Like, what the fudge? I feel bad for Anthe. Anthe just gets, like, abused so far in this series. Utena's the only nice person to her. And, it's a lot. So then we have Nanami. She has the same sand-colored hair as Nanami Kento, but she is a winch. So, not the same. She's like poison honey. She seems all really nice, but then she, like, just is kind of the worst. And Anthe's like, I don't want to go to this dancing queen gig. And she's like, well, I want to be your friend, Himemiya-senpai. And Himemiya's like, oh, okay. We can be friends. Sure. Meanwhile, they're playing Go Fish, and Anthe has the worst luck. And again, I feel like Utena is taking for granted this time that they have by themselves. I feel like it's short-lived, but we'll see how that goes. And around this time, they get a knock at the door, and this package arrived. Now, can we note before we talk about these dresses that the thing that Choo Choo eats is the little, like, packets that they put in to preserve the dresses and stuff. Don't ever eat those. They say on there, do not eat. And he ate them, and that's why he's foaming at the mouth, dying in the scene. I was like, oh my God. So, look, I have the last 2 years absorbed myself into RuPaul's Drag Race, and I've watched literally every season of the regulars. I've watched like 16 seasons, like 9 seasons of All Stars, 4 seasons of Canadian Drag Race, 2 UK versus the world, like 5 seasons. I've watched a lot of Drag Race, so we're going to have some runway challenges with the rest of this episode. Of course, the ribbons that they get are blue and red. One of the boxes came from Kiryu, the other one came from Nanami. Go figure. Nanami gives the dress to Anthe that's going to dissolve, and, you know, Kiryu just took time out of his day to craft a beautifully perfect dress for this woman that he has kind of a crush on and enthralled with, and she just throws it off. Want to make note, how these women got their measurements right, I don't know. Dresses are very fickle. Finding the right dress size, I have like 10 dresses that are all different sizes. No. I love how Utena got the far better dress, but she was like, oh, I'm not gonna wear that. Ew. Now, I say far better. I like the off the shoulder, that big 80s moment. I like that. The red rose in the middle is a little clashy with the baby pink. I do like all the ruffles. If the dress had been like maybe baby blue with the red rose, I think it would have gone better, but I mean, Kiryu, he does like his reds and pinks. Now, the giant green dress that Anthe wears, it does match her purple hair. It's just such a garish shade of green. It's like lime green. I mean, her complexion looks great with it. It definitely offsets that, but I don't know. It's like she's going to be green with envy wearing it. And Anthe just doesn't want to go to the ball. What I think is interesting about this is that at this point early on in the story, Utena is like, well, we should go. You should make friends. We should go do this. And she's not really listening to what Anthe wants. And then the bad stuff happens to Anthe and she ends up dancing with her at the end. And it works out the end. But in some ways, Anthe just kind of goes along with what anybody says. And she doesn't defend herself because she's the Rose Bride. She can't. So I'm going to be curious to see if Utena starts to like develop alongside that or what that's going to happen, what that's going to lead to. I'm very curious. She's like, you need friends, but you should make more friends. So yeah, on the night of the ball, yeah, toga. Oh my God. So then we have this ominous sunset and these creepy ass women, the chorus, the puppets, and they all have their dogs now. But sometimes there are two dogs. Sometimes there's only one dog. Sometimes there's a princess and a prince. Sometimes there's neither and they're both dressed up as ladies. It's the weirdest shit. The two chorus women telling the story are so intriguing. I'm curious to see if it'll keep evolving as we go. So this entire like banquet building here is giving me such Berserk 97 vibes. It's not even funny. Like especially with the big overhead, the balcony and all this. Giving me vibes from it. I'm just saying. I also like how this is a middle school dance. The bougiest academy, the bougiest of bougie academies. This is a middle school dance. Are you kidding me? What? What? How? So interested. So intrigued. Y'all, what? So yeah, this dinner is going on. These are the most well-behaved middle schoolers at a dance ever. Like, how is this not a high school? I don't understand. All right. The dress that Nanami gave Anthe, horrid. Horrible. The color looks great on her skin, but the design of it is so basic. And then Kiryu points for the lovely off-the-shoulder number and the ruffles. The rose is pretty. Wouldn't have made it pink, but it's okay. I don't like the color yellow. It makes me look totally washed out. But if I could like color swap not the big black magenta bow, that thing is amazing. But like swap the magenta and the yellow on the back. Nanami's dress is gorgeous. I would wear that in a heartbeat. The yellow, I'd have to do a different color, but that dress is stunning. The giant ass bow, the ruffles, the hourglass silhouette, the big giant puffy sleeves, the big bow on the front too with the crystal. Girl, tens across the board. She came dressed to impress. And it's too bad that your brother doesn't like you that way. So they have this queen of the dance nonsense. And she goes in there. And then, Kiryu and her have the same color eyes, so I guess they are siblings, but the fudge. No, I love Nanami's dress. And of course, Kiryu is instantly stunned by the beauty that Utena looks like in the dress that he made. And Nanami's like, bitch, I'm ready to get her. Yeah, I do. Okay, seeing Anthe with the dress on, I do like the sleeves. And I think there is the bow at the top of Anthe's does look really cute with the little green bows. I'll take it back. That does look cute. I still think the green needed something else with it, but it's fine. It's cute. And then all the girls are like, oh my God, Utena, you're cross-dressing. I'm like, she's just wearing a dress. So she's like, I went ahead and invited him and Mia since you've been talking about her. And Kiryu's like, well, I don't care about her. I care about Utena. Which, again, is fascinating to me that Kiryu doesn't care about him and Mia since she's the one that they're supposed to be fighting for. I'm like, you don't care about her? What? So, but apparently not. So then Nanami comes and she's like, I'm sorry that you have to wear something embarrassing. And then Utena's like, is it that bad? It's like, no. It's not bad. It's actually a nice dress. And so Nanami comes, grabs Himamiya. She looks amazing. And then goes to take her to dance. And Kiryu saunters in. And of course, this is what reminded me of Shin Chincho when Utena's like, well, how about that? Himamiya has a friend after all. And it's like, girl, you don't even realize. And then Kiryu shows up like, here I am. And she's like, oh, you, no. Not you. Not you, sir. I like that he just keeps trying to hit on her. And he's like, well, you're the true queen of this academy. Again, calling her a queen. I'm like, what is he trying to get at? What is he trying to suggest? Does he know how Saionji lost the duel to her? He seems like he wants to be a couple with her just so that they can be picture perfect and everything. I will say, they do look really good together with the pink and the red, but no. So then these horrible, like, she leaves her out in the middle of the crowd and she freaks out because she can't recognize anybody and she just kind of freezes. And then these three mean wenches show up to douse champagne on the, they literally pull a she's all that. They just go up and like spill the champagne on her. And at first I was like, well, who cares if she has the champagne spilled on her? It's an accident. But then you find out that it starts to dissolve the dress and I'm like, how dare you? I wonder if it was like chiffon or something or paper mache. But then yeah, of course, as soon as the dress started to come apart, I was like, Utena's gonna stop in and save her. And she's like, you get the special dress I was so graciously gifted that I gifted you wet. And so then Kiryu's like, let's dance. And Utena's like, stop. She's like, leave me alone. This party isn't my style. And he's like, well, then why did you come? And she's like, well, I was trying to help out my friend. And I wanted to see, you know, in case if you were... And she's about to tell him about the whole prince thing. And that's when she sees poor Himamiya, like, embarrassed and almost naked in front of the crowd. And at first I thought she was going to toss... I thought she was going to toss her dress to Himamiya and have her put it on. But no, she just tosses it aside. And makes her, like, dressed up in the most beautiful, like, quick drag toga you've ever seen in your life. I think it's interesting that Kiryu is, like, confused why his sister did that to Himamiya. He's like, what is she trying to do? Like, what was the point of this? I think that's interesting. It's interesting to note that Nanami is kind of a winch and a schemer, and that Kiryu is not sure why she's doing that. And so then, yeah, I love it. Utena shows up at the top of the stairwell, takes the sheet off the table, wraps it around her, and girl wins every design challenge imaginable and fashions this instantly glamorous toga dress. Give her the 100K now. And then this beautiful song plays and they end up being able to dance together. It's so, so cute. I love it. And Himamiya seems so happy in that moment. And Nanami's like, well, it was all going according to plan. Curse you, Tina. Who is that girl? And then Kiryu's like, bitch, what were you doing? You ruined my chances. She's like, who's that girl dancing with Himamiya-san? And he says, well, she's Tenjo Utena. He's like, she's quite something. How audacious of her to cast aside the dress I sent her. And then Nanami's like, you sent her a dress? Her? Who's she? So now Nanami's going to be jealous of Utena. Of course she is. Nanami's just going to be jealous of these wenches without realizing that these girls don't even want her brother at all. It's so sweet. I love the ending of it. It was so cute, them getting to dance together. It felt very much like there's an episode of Sailor Moon where Serena or Usagi, she finally gets the chance to dance with Darien, or aka Tuxedo Mask, and neither of them at the moment know who each other really is. So it's this really cute moment, but you're like, oh, if only you knew who it was that you're dancing with. And this feels very akin to that, like both of them dancing, like Utena trying to make Himamiya have a much more better experience than just being kind of singled out and embarrassed. But it's like, is one of them the prince? Do they both have the spirit of the prince inside of them? Neither of them really know who each other is in relation to one another. So it's just like the mystery of it all, right? Right. This was such a cute episode, but I'm going to be honest with y'all. Seeing this preview and seeing Mickey, I'm super excited to find out more about him, especially with his piano playing skills. Maybe we'll see Kaoru or some Neon Genesis characters come up. But in any case, I am super excited to hear your thoughts down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'm super excited to see what we're going to get on the next episode of The Revolutionary Girl Utena. Bye.